Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petite to Queen's Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn, and today we've got a really great show in store for you. We're going to be talking about how to unlock more business and plant seeds for the future. And I am really thrilled to share with you that our returning guest is Christina Lenkowski.
Hello again. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're back, Christina. We had such fun previously, and we've been talking offline. For those of you who didn't catch the first one, or if you need a reminder, Christina is a forward-thinking publicity strategist and educator for entrepreneurs, speakers, and authors who are looking to expand their credibility. So Christina demonstrates how to go from the best-kept secret to go to expert in your industry through being a guest on other people's podcasts. And that's ironically how we connected.
Exactly.
And during her 13 years of running, of being a PR agency and the consulting work that she's done, she's helped clients earn spots in some really prestigious publications. Print like Martha Stewart Living, Sunset, Reader's Digest, and Big Life, and online coverage on MSN.com and TravelChannel.com. And that's just to name a few. So I am just thrilled to have you back, Christina, and talk about unlocking the seeds for the future.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to be back on and talking to your audience again, and hopefully get them thinking some different ways about getting, in front of people and staying sane at the same time.
That's really that key. Absolutely. And for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, don't miss a single episode. Hit that subscribe button so you can catch every Claim Your Career Crown episode wherever you get your podcasts. And while we're there, go ahead and share that love and click all 5 stars. Okay, well, Christina, let's get right down to it. And I'm going to toss the ball to you first. And I'd love to hear from you how you describe, that balancing act of managing your current business while pursuing potential prospects.
Yeah, to be perfectly honest, a huge part of the reason that I can do that is because I have help in place. And I think that is so incredibly important, even when you're, and by that, just to back up, by that, I mean, I have like a virtual assistant, and I also have someone that pitches with me as well. And those are contractors that I have that work under me, but they really help keep me organized, keep me sane. They really handle a lot of the client work so that I'm then able to pursue new leads, and make sure that we're constantly getting new clients in the door, and then they're making sure that, of course, they're being serviced properly and at the level that we want them to be serviced at. But I think that people just get really up in their head about, well, I'm not ready yet to hire someone, or I'm not ready yet to have help, or this or that. And I'm telling you right now that if you keep a sticky note, this is what I did. I have a sticky note where I'm doing something like during the day, and I'll be like, I don't need to be doing this. I need to do it for my business, but I don't need to be the person that's doing this. I, as the CEO of this company, don't need to be doing this specific thing. And I'll write that down on my sticky note, and, I'll look back at it every now and again, and suddenly I'll be like, oh yeah, I could definitely hire someone for 10 hours a week to do this stuff for me. And so that's kind of how I manage my time, is being okay with delegating and understanding that people can do the job like you can. You just need to set the expectations how you want to set them. I am very, very particular about the level with which I pitch at and things like that. And so the person that pitches under me, she is also at that same level. You're able to make those choices. You can do that higher, have a 60-day trial period, 90-day trial period, make sure that it's at the level that you want it to be at. And then move forward from there. But I think getting help, that's how I do everything in my life. House cleaner, people that help with my kid, people that help in my business. Otherwise, there's no way that I would ever stay married and or sane. So I think that those are, important things to keep in mind, is that help is a good thing.
Absolutely. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think another piece that's really important is figuring out your strategic plan. The systems that you're going to be using, the cadence and the templates that you can leverage, because that makes everything easier. And
Mm-hmm.
when you put that time in up front, even when it seems like you've got so much going on, you've just got to sort of stop and go, how can we make this work better and seamlessly, so that, to your point, other team members can pick this up, and so we know exactly what we're doing. Otherwise, you're just flailing all over the place.
Yes.
And that time invested pays
Mm-hmm.
dividends off every single day in the future.
Yes.
And the amount of stress that it can take off of you, and just giving the confidence to your team that they know exactly what they need to do because it's been mapped out for them.
Yeah. And of course, if they have a question, they're welcome to ask me, and things like that. But, it's not like, oh, well, now that you have this, like, we're done here with communicating. Not at all. I'm communicating with my team all the time. But to your point, making sure that you have something in place. That's what we're doing right now, actually. I was just on a call earlier today with the person that's helping me work out. We're starting to use Trello. So helping to get our Trello project management software all lined up and how we need it to work, what we need it for. And then I'll go on later to share that video that I did with this person with my VA. And then she can go, she's going to be the one who's managing the project management software, et cetera, et cetera. So it is going to take time up front. Like you said, there's going to be time investment there, and you might be like, I don't want to, and if you're like me, your brain doesn't work in that way either. Like, I don't have an organized mind, like, in any way, shape, or form. So I get kind of overwhelmed sometimes when I look at that or things like that. But I'm already seeing the benefit that it's going to have for my team and being able to just stay on top of things, not let things fall through the cracks. And to your point, as your team grows, know exactly where people are on different, things. Be able to say, oh, okay, Lindsay has already done 3 bookings. She's working on number 4. Whatever it is, I'm able to just quickly look at that. I don't have to go and ask Lindsay every single time, because I'm sure that's annoying as an employee too. So be able to have all that there and move forward. So the system's in place and letting people help you with those systems.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great suggestion. So we were talking about how you can be smarter. So let's sort of extend that further. How can you be smarter about filling your sales funnel with leads?
Yeah, I think that, of course, I'm going to say being a guest on podcasts is a great way to fill your sales funnel with leads. That's definitely something that I would recommend. Even when I was just on that workflow session with the gal who's helping me with that, she was saying how she was just a guest on a couple podcasts recently, and that brought in new customers for her. So absolutely, that is the exact type of thing I love to hear, and the thing I hear over and over again, which is just how being a guest on podcasts is bringing in more leads. But publicity is only one part of the marketing pie. So there's definitely other ways that you could be bringing in leads as well. One of those is ads. So paid ads, whether you do Facebook ads or other things. I personally think Facebook ads, you need to make sure that you're getting the return on the investment, but they work really well if you have like a smaller product, like maybe something that, like a digital product or something like that people can just quickly buy and go from there. So there's that, but then there's also owned media. Earned, owned, and paid are the 3 parts of that pie. And so owned media is your social media, your website, et cetera, et cetera. So those are also great ways to bring in people into your funnel, right? Have your social media be going off, have it be going into the people that you want it to be in front of. And, that's going to bring more people your way as well.
Yeah. And I think strategically, when you're looking at that, one thing is to have identified your ideal client avatar. Who are you marketing to or targeting, so that you make sure that you're getting out in front of them. And with that person or people, that group, the key thing about that is what's their why? What do they want, need, or lack? And how does your product or service benefit them so that they can? Because ultimately that's what they're they're buying is the so they can. So you want to create content around that client why, so that you can be putting that into, so that you can attract the leads into your funnel. And to your point is when you are, you're directing them back into your website, you need to be able to capture that and then have a plan in place for how you are, not necessarily just a drip campaign, but a way that you can create even more value for them and more connectivity. And then when you start that conversation with them, it's also the same thing, really having 5 questions to determine, are they someone who's really at that place that they are the right type of client, and they're at that place that your product or service can be of real value to them. So that, to move them forward into your sales cadence, or do they go into a different category, like relationship or et cetera, because you want to be really focusing your time the best way. And if you're chasing a lead who's either never going to buy for you, or they're never going to be the right fit, so they're never going to be a source of referrals, or, it's just like all the effort that you've put into that, you should have been spending somewhere else.
Yeah. And this has led, exactly what you said, this has led me to, now have an application for people before they want to hop on to a discovery call with me. And it's obviously not a super, I'm not asking them 100 questions or anything like that, but I want, to make sure that they are going to be the right person in regards to me spending my time talking with them. And one of the things that I even put right on the application is what the investment is going to be. Are you okay with investing this amount of money? Because again, if someone's thinking that it's going to cost this low amount of money to do this, I don't really have the availability to be hopping on a call with them if that's what they're thinking. But I have other things that might fit in their price range that they can take advantage of, things that they might actually be looking for, a training or something like that. But it may not be that the one-to-one service is going to be the best fit, for them. They're not ready to make that kind of an investment. But for some people, they absolutely are. They're ready to say like, okay, yes, this is an investment I want to make. And that's the type of person that I want to talk to, right? Because they already see the value of what I do. So I'm not necessarily having to convince them of, why they should be doing podcast pitching or this or that. Of course, they're going to want to know details. Of course, they're going to want to ask questions. Of course, that's obviously, I would be the same way. But I don't necessarily have to be saying to them, well, this is why this is why guesting on podcasts is important, or this is the value you can see. Of course, we're going to go through that a little bit, but they already know, so they already know, they're already willing to invest in something like this. And so that is worth my time. Even if it doesn't end up working out, that is someone that's worth my time for me to chat with and see if it is a good fit.
Yeah, no. And that really brings us to the next question. But the point is that, creating your content around that client why and answering what their top questions are, then you can get them where they're going like, yeah, I'm really interested in this and I want to learn more. I want to know more. And so that's such an important part of the customer journey, and making sure that you've captured that in your systems. For us, because, we have our podcast and we have guests come on the show on a regular basis, we actually created a 4-part masterclass on how to be a guest on a podcast to grow your business, because it is a really great piece for sales. Now, we don't do what Christina does. She's a resource that we can share with our clients, but it's part of a sales strategy. And it may be one that really works well for you, and it may not. But we put that together as to answer that question. How can you grow your business, right? And this is one method. And so we put all the assets together for that. But so that's sort of, not to do a shameless plug here, but it is a free masterclass. So, but,
plug it.
Yeah. But what are some of the other, like proven methods that you've found that you can utilize, or that you have utilized to deliver value and demonstrate generosity, and how does this strategy really help you focus on those prospects that are a good fit?
Yeah, I mean, I've done just kind of what you said. I've done that before, like a recorded masterclass or a video series or something like that for people to get value from. We've done checklists, downloads, all those type of things. That is a huge part of the podcast journey is you need to have some place that you're directing people to. Whenever I talk to someone and they say they didn't have a good experience guesting on podcasts or they didn't see a huge return from it, a lot of times it's because they didn't have anywhere that they sent people to, or they had like 4 different things. They're like, oh, well, if you want to work with me this way, you can do this. Or if you want to work with me this way, you can do this, X, Y, Z. No, you need to be sending them to one place. And you can have your different offers on that one place. But, it needs to be very clear where you want people to go. But having some kind of opt-in, to your point, that leads to some kind of nurturing or a funnel or something like that, that's what you want to have going on. And that's definitely the proven way to be using a podcast, effectively is to have some place that you can direct people and then to provide them with some free value, but then be showing them the ways that they can work with you in a paid capacity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people want that. Some people are there to look for the DIY, but other people, when they start to look into it and they sort of understand what all is involved, it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. Maybe I should be working with somebody who can take this on and guide me through the whole process, and I'll get really good results right away. So I think that, and that is truly, that's one method. And to your point, I think it's so important that whatever lead magnet you do have, on your website that you're using in your social, that you run paid ads for, whatever that happens to be, you want to make sure that you are capturing the lead. Because if you're not doing that, then it's just, you're doing all this work, you're throwing all the spaghetti against the wall, and almost none of it is sticking. And the second point is that you want to welcome them. So I really strongly recommend that you go through a welcome sequence. And because there's always going to be people who just want the free thing, and that's great. I mean, I do that myself. But the thing is, when you go through a welcome sequence and then you start stacking the value and the generosity, people get that back. And you'll find that, at least for us, people don't leave the fold at that point. After they've gone through our welcome sequence, they don't unsubscribe because they've sort of seen the value that they're going to have and they're going to receive, and they want to just stay in the fold. And through that, you can continue to nurture them in other ways, and that they have opportunities then to, when you strike a chord of something, a truly something that they, like you said, a service that they want or need, or they have more interest, they're going to be able to schedule that quick strike call and to move forward. So, I mean, I'm sort of going on here, and I think one of the things that we've been doing is we've been using some storytelling, although not super effectively, but I would love to talk to you, Christina, about the importance of storytelling in your sales process, in the customer journey, and how it can set you apart to build a connection with not only prospects, but also your existing customers.
Yeah, I mean, particularly when it comes to prospects or when you're on a podcast, I think storytelling is a huge, huge part of the reason why people like to be on podcasts and why they like to listen to podcasts as well. We want to hear what other people have gone through. We want to relate to them in some way. When I teach, how to be on podcasts in my trainings or things like that, or how to pitch yourself to be on podcasts and train, I talk about how you need to have instructive pitches and you need to have connection-based pitches. So especially when you're pitching for the first time, you're going to kind of have 1 or 2 of each of those. So something that's like a how-to, very, this is how to do this, the 5 ways to do this, whatever. But then you also need to have something that's a connection. And every single person has something that they can connect with someone else on. Of course, they're going to be different from person to person what it is. But that's the type of stuff that people really remember. And that's the type of thing that really takes them from maybe being interested in what you do to actually signing up for that freebie or starting to follow you on social media or something like that. For them to actually take the next step to learn more about you is because they feel some kind of connection to you. And that's like one thing that one of my clients, he talked about, like, that's been a really unexpected, like, he just wasn't expecting that from being a guest on podcasts as much as that, he does get leads, of course, people trickle in this or that, like through the signups and everything, but really his engagement is through the roof. Like people DM him all the time or things like that to be like, I heard you on such and such. You were talking about this, you were talking about this. I really related to that. And then that leads him to be able to have a conversation that ultimately may lead to a sale or may not, but is going to be someone that is already very interested in learning more from him or about him. So the story is really, really what's so important there. When I talk to people about like how I got started on my podcasting journey or podcast pitching journey, which I know I talked about on your last show, but in short, launched my own course. It completely failed because I didn't do any publicity work. I did other things that I, had kind of been taught how to do, but I was like, I'm not going to do this. Second time actually did publicity, and it was a world of difference. And that's kind of what made me realize how many entrepreneurs aren't taught this and how important it is to their success. That's what people resonate with. Like people will write me and be like, oh my gosh, I also had a failed launch the first time because I didn't do any of this work or this or that. And so those stories are so, so incredibly important, for as you move forward and really for getting people into your atmosphere, connecting with you, and then ultimately buying from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, stories, they allow you draw people in. They can see themselves in the story. It's a way that they can relate and connect with you. And to your point, I mean, just another shameless plug for guest podcasting. You are speaking directly into someone's ears, and it's really, they can hear your voice. They can see your face if it's on the video. I mean, there is a much deeper connection that can be formed in this format. So, but there's lots and lots of strategies. So this isn't just about guest podcasting. So let's move on to the next question that I have for you. And I'm going to look at my notes here. So when you're working out your outreach strategy, because this is a question I get quite a bit, but how many times should you follow up and what should the cadence look like?
So I generally follow up twice after we send the initial email. So we send the initial pitch, we follow up 1 to 2 weeks later, and then we follow up 3 weeks after that is generally how we have it set up. Of course, you can set yourself reminders to do that. We actually use a program called Mailshake in our business, and that allows us to set up the follow-up emails as we send the first one. And then if we get a response, it stops the chain of emails coming automatically, and we're able to just respond directly to the person. But it just makes life easier, because unless you have a VA or something like that that can be doing that for you, it's just hard to remember to do the follow-up. And the follow-up is so incredibly important. I would say that's where I'm sure that's where we get more than half of our bookings is in the follow-up. No question about it. Is the second or even the third follow-up us saying like, hey, hi, saw just us again, just wanted to check in, and see if you saw this. The third one, we actually send a new story idea as well, a new topic. So that's something we do on the third one, like, hey, just in case, or here's a new idea if you want to think about this instead or whatever. And a lot of times that will get a response for us as well. The other thing we do, if you're active on Instagram, is we actually follow up in Instagram in the DMs as well. So we don't pitch in the DMs, like we don't send our initial pitch there, but after we send the pitch, we sometimes will send a DM that says like, hey, just wanted to let you know, we just sent this over. We think such and such would be a great guest. Please let us know if you have any questions. And that works pretty well for us. I think because a lot of the times that's the actual host, whereas in their email, it might be a VA or something like that that's kind of fielding those emails. So that's kind of a nice way to follow up as well. Basically, in short, just don't be the person that sends a follow-up every single day or every other day. Don't harass whoever it is if you don't get a response from them, or if they say no. Don't take it personally if a host says no. This is like something I have to talk to my members about, my accountability membership that I have. Like, people get so worried before they send a pitch, like, well, what if they say no? And, I I have to remind them that they're going to say no. Like many, of them are going to say no. I would love to book every host that I send a pitch to. That doesn't happen, so you need to be prepared for that, and you need to not be taking it personally, because they could be all booked up. They could have maybe very recently had someone else on the show talking about the same thing. There's a lot of reasons why you might get a no, and I guarantee it has nothing to do with you. And so I think that that's really, really important for people to hear and to not take it personally, because it is what it is. A podcast host has one a week. They only have 52 shows a year. I can guarantee some of these hosts are getting pitched multiple times a day. So that doesn't mean that you don't go for it. That means you still go for it with solid topic ideas and a solid pitch and stuff like that. But, there's going to be no's along the way. It's not let that stop you.
Yeah. And regardless of what your sales, your product, service is, absolutely, you have to have pretty thick skin. It's not about you unless you are stalking them. You can turn people off, and they can go from interested to not in a million years because you stalked them, right?
Exactly.
And the other thing is, really, you have to pay attention to that of adding value. So once again, looking at your customer journey map, and where they're at, and how you can add value at those different stages, and people will respond to different methods. So someone might respond to a video, somebody else to a process map, somebody else to a checklist, because you can take the same material and use it over and over again. So I'm going to go back to that example that I had, because, because I don't sell, guest podcasting services, but we have a podcast. And so we had created this masterclass because it was a question that I would get about how to, do this and how to be a guest. And it's a great sales strategy. I believe in it as a sales strategy. But I started out by doing this topic on a summit for women authors, for women publishers. And so I did the summit on this topic. And then I took that topic, and I was invited to write a guest article. And so I wrote an article on how to leverage guest podcasting to grow your business, because I do believe in it as a sales tool. So then we repurposed that again for an article on our own website, right? I modified it again. Then I created a process map so that I could show people the process of both before and after, the things you do before the podcast and what you do after the podcast. And then we created a video about those people who may feel like, well, this isn't for me. I don't feel comfortable doing this. And so my team member, Amanda, who considers herself shy and introverted, did a 2-minute video about, I love podcasting now. And she's my co-host on most episodes. And so, that type of thing. And then what are our tools that we use, so that we can really get this process down, because I am a guest podcast every week. I'm doing guest podcasting. So the whole, and then of course I did the masterclass, right? So, you think about it, I've repurposed this already over 6 times. And essentially that same content, because people want it in different ways. And some people may get really excited about a process map, and other people, it leaves them cold.
Right.
So people don't care what tools you're using because they already have that figured out. So it's that idea. And the key thing, though, that we didn't really nail, you've got to follow up. It is absolutely, the statistics are staggering on how few salespeople follow up or follow up after one try. And so you need to follow up. And if you have it planned, and that you have a strategy and content and value that you already know. I actually hadn't heard about that tool, Mailshake, that I wrote down, because I thought, I got to check that out. But when you have all that planned, then and you put that into whatever, if you're using a CRM or, some other type of tool, then you know what it is that you're going to, and it should be custom configured for that person, so that it's not a robot. People know when they're getting the robot. You want to be able to demonstrate that worthy intent. So So we went sort of from strategy. Let's talk a little bit, a last question about tactics. Tactics of how you can leverage to strengthen both, these existing account relationships, so that you can potentially bring in more leads that way.
So sorry, I guess what do you mean
kind of
by
tactics?
that?
What kind of tactics would you leverage to take your existing clients and help turn them into champions so that they would potentially deliver you with warm referrals, some recommendations?
I think my greatest thing that we do is do an amazing job when they're our client. And I think that, no, I truly, I think that for us, that's been where we've leveraged that stuff. I have a couple clients that, regularly send people our way that end up becoming clients. So very warm leads. And the reason they do that is because I worked with them before. So they feel very comfortable in, recommending my agency because they're like, well, I've already done this and I had a really good experience. So if this is what you're looking for, this is the person to talk to. The other thing that I do is I do offer an affiliate fee, like a referral fee. So if one of those people sends someone my way and they become a customer, we do a flat out, percentage that they get sent from that off the block. So those are two things that we do to kind of continue with our clients to get them tactically, to send people our way and things like that. My other thing is I just like to spoil people when they come on our, when they become a one-on-one client of ours. Like we just have these really cute door hangers made for them and stuff like that. My love language is gift giving. Like that's my number one thing. And I'm always like clear on that. It doesn't mean like expensive. It doesn't mean anything like that. It just means like showing that you're thinking about someone, or that you're grateful for them in that way. Like, it can be as simple as like, oh, I went to my husband's favorite bakery and I got him I was there and I got him a cookie, like something like that. Right. Like it's just like a little thing like that. So I have these like door hangers made and I always do a welcome note when we have a new client and things like that. And I do think that having those kind of, in this like online digital world, people don't think about sending actual gifts sometimes. And I think that by doing that, people are always like, I always get notes when I send like handwritten things. People are like, oh my gosh, I got your note. Like I got it in the mail. Like what, things like that. And so I think that it's important to remember that there are people behind these computers as well, and showing them that we appreciate them and putting their faith in us and everything like that is very important too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think showing the gratitude is so important, and obviously doing a great job by doing the heavy lifting, coming with solutions, not problems when something comes up with your client, keeping them very well informed so that they don't have to email you and check. They're getting a regular like update. So they go, okay, great. Check. I don't have to think about it. I know that they've got it, being responsive. If they do respond, email you or communicate with you some way. So that, I heard what you said. I don't have an answer for you yet. We're working on it. I'll be responding to you, blah, 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 by when. So that type of that communication is so important. And on a level where you're dealing with larger clients in a B2B environment, one really effective tool is quarterly business reviews, where you get together with your client either quarterly or biannually or even annually, and you go over everything that was accomplished that year. You have like a third of the QBR is about results and what you've achieved. And then the next third is about where you're headed. And then the next third is really what's going on in their world and getting learning from them what they have on their to-do list or their goals, their initiatives, their strategic plans, because there are openings there that you can provide a solution up front and put in a pilot program or things like that and get way ahead of the curve. So those are some ideas that I have.
All right.
Yeah, but I think we both agree the number one thing is really to have a plan, to have do that investment work up front, have systems and processes in place, and that's going to help you so that
And
when
have
you're
help.
really busy and you're humming with a lot of business, how you can keep the leads coming in without it, causing just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Christina, this has again been a really fabulous conversation. And I want to thank you so much for your sage advice and your tips on
I don't know how
doing.
stage it is, but yeah.
Oh, no. I mean, it's so great that people can hear this, some ideas that they can walk away with today on how to balance, both their existing business and the new business that they want to keep that lead funnel running effectively. Yeah. And so I know that our listeners, after they've been listening and tuning in, that they're going to want to know where they can find out more about you.
Yeah, you can find me at publicitybychristina.com/booked. And that's, oh, wait. Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, I had to think that through for a second. But it's Publicity X Christina. So publicityxchristina.com/booked. And yeah, that's where you can, I have a free resource, of course, as we spoke about, have one of those, a guest checklist, see if you're ready to be a podcast guest. And then there's also some ways on there that you can work with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be sure to include that backlink in our notes below, everybody. So you can get that with a click of your mouse
Awesome.
or your finger, whatever the place may be.
Exactly. You're right.
And thank you. Thank you. This has been such a great discussion. And for everybody out there, if you have ideas that you'd like to share, you can leave us a comment down below. We do love hearing your thoughts and finding out what's going on when you listen to our episodes. And if you do have a question or would like to suggest a topic for discussion, you can also email us at jointheconversation@petitequeen.com. And of course, to stay current on all our insightful advice and the breakthrough advantages, the free masterclass, whatever it happens to be, you can sign up for our weekly Wisdoms newsletter. And I want to thank everyone for listening. And again, Christina, thank you so much for being back on the show.
Thank you for having me.